Hello.
Hello, I am Andrew.
Hi.
I am listed here as Quebec Farmers Association, but I
Okay.
am indeed the Andrew McClellan that you spoke with on the phone. How are you?
Amazing. I'm doing well. How are you?
Pretty good. I am also solo parenting
Okay.
currently, as my wife and very helpful teenage son are out because they've joined a choir, which
Fun.
is on Wednesdays, which is when
Yeah.
we always do these video conferences.
Fun.
But that's fine. My son is a big reader. He's reading in the other room.
Okay. Fun.
Are you in Toronto or are you
Yes.
in Kingston?
Whitby.
Okay,
Whitby. I'm in Whitby.
Whitby. All right.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah. So fun.
Um, and do you mind if I record the meeting?
No, not at all.
Okay. It's I'm not gonna upload it to YouTube or anything. I tend to write articles about each
Sure.
video conference we do.
Okay.
And I should make you co-host.
Perfect.
Oh,
And then we have another Zoom user. I'm just gonna grab my notebook.
yes. Here, I'll make you co-host. Armin, this
Yes,
is
hello.
hello, Armin. I'm
Eh,
here with Kelly-Anne Lahey. Armin, you have superpowers of using Zoom in that I'm supposed to only allow people in. I'm supposed to be the master of puppets, and you just bypassed. I don't know how you did it. It's quite
yeah,
incredible.
quite something, huh?
I
All right. By the way, I finally watched the presentation of Jeffrey.
Yeah.
I liked it. Thank you for sending me the connection.
Oh, were you not there when we?
No, I tell you, I was in
Oh,
Quebec
yes.
City
Okay. All right.
at the annual
Gotcha.
meeting at the gala. I couldn't
Okay.
sleep it
Of
out. That's
course.
why.
All right.
Otherwise, I would have had
Um,
more questions.
all right.
But your dad did a
Um,
good job.
well, maybe I'll rely on you to ask
Hey,
questions and get the ball rolling.
there you go.
Um, so Kellyanne, it looks like you have your thing all set up, and that's great.
Yes. I can take
Uh,
it down if you'd like, if we're not ready to
We'll
go.
we'll take it down for now as more
Okay.
people join.
Okay.
Um, I just wanted to make sure that everything is totally fine. I find with every new update of Zoom,
Yeah, I know. I'm like
um,
looking around. Yeah, looks
yeah,
great. Okay.
absolutely. And I don't know if you want to share the predictive index link during the meeting. It might slow
You know
us
what?
down time-wise.
It's a good
Uh,
idea.
as people kind of you can do it in the chat or
Yeah.
whatever you like.
Yeah, that's a good
Um,
idea. I'll pop it in the chat now.
Perfect.
I saw a
Um,
couple filter in, so I think three or four was just sent
oh,
in.
good.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Was one of them mine? Can you tell?
No. I have Robin, Jeff.
Really?
There's
Oh,
another
okay.
one. Yes.
Mine was done last week,
I saw yours.
days ago.
But it is funny because I guessed and I was right. So, okay. There we go. So for those of you on the line, maybe, this survey does take about 5 minutes to complete, and we do recommend you complete it in kind of a quiet, like stimuli-free environment. So may not be the best space, but I'll pop it in the chat, and if folks want to complete it, feel free. There we go. Okay, so it's in the
Yeah.
chat.
So that is an incredibly short,
Yes.
really two question survey
Yeah.
that will help us talk about some of the things about farm transitions and the personalities of people who are called to lead them or accept them or work through them in families and farm businesses. And if you want to do it, then it'll help us out and could be fun. Um, really does not take long at all. So
No. And
don't
that's the
worry.
allure of it.
Yes, I myself clicked on what was described as a 5-minute survey for an entire other area of my job earlier today, and around 7 questions in, immediately regretted it, and that the
Yeah.
survey was not a 5-minute survey.
Yeah.
So thank
This
you.
is a real 5 minute
This is a real
survey.
5-minute survey.
There we go.
Um, and you grew up around Kingston, or were you? Oh no, we were talking about because we were talking about Skeleton Park, weren't we?
Yeah, yes,
Yeah,
yes. I grew up in Kingston right behind Cat Center. And
yeah.
I don't know if anyone knows Kingston Feed and Farm. That was where I I grew up.
Yeah,
So yeah, no, it's stayed in Kingston for Queens and didn't want to leave, but the job was in Toronto, so I came
yeah,
back here. But yeah, no, I'm excited to be here, and I can't wait to share some of the stories that I've picked up on, and some of the trends that I've seen.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you for doing that.
Yeah,
And I'm just dealing with some folks who are having trouble logging in
no problem.
on Facebook and are sending me messages that ping up very quickly.
There we
But
go.
yeah,
So yeah,
we'll
go
get
ahead.
started at around 7:30. Go ahead,
Okay.
please.
I was going to say for folks who are joining, just check the chat
Yeah.
because we did put a link to what we call the Predictive Index Behavioral Assessment Survey, which is kind of a fancy way of saying like a personality leadership survey. And I will reference this at some points, but no obligation to take it. Totally up to you if you'd like to have that insight. And for folks who've completed it, I can see your results filtering in now. So just ping me or send me a note after, and I'm happy to give you a full read back.
I'm also interested to see if my father logs on as he normally does, because every time we do a farm transition, farm succession
Yeah.
forum, I realize that in my professional capacity here, I'm also here in a really personal way, in that I will one day inherit a farm
hmm
as well, or myself, my brother, and my sister will. And even though none of us really have the
hmm
knowledge to take on a family farm, it is something that we have to think about. Oh, and there he is. He's coming up.
Right on cue.
Shh, don't tell him I was talking about him.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect.
Very good.
So I am, in case you're wondering, I am in what is basically downtown Montreal, um, where I live and work. Um, and things are nice and almost spring-like here.
Oh, wow, not here.
Yes. Really?
No, yeah, no, we had freezing rain today.
Oh,
It's
okay.
I live in a strange little town called Brooklyn. I don't know if anyone knows GTA, but it's a very small community and it is a snow belt here. So you may have no snow in Whitby, like 40 minutes or 5 minutes down the road, but there is a very heavy snowfall
Oh,
every time.
wow.
Yes. So anyway, it's been a very long winter for folks in Whitby, I'll say.
Yeah. Some
Is
winter
that
storms.
Yes.
Um, it is true that sometimes in Quebec we make fun of people in the GTA
I
regarding.
know, but I'm very clear to say not Toronto. I am in Whitby. I'll say an hour and a half west
Yes.
of Kingston versus
Yeah,
30 minutes from Toronto.
absolutely. Great. So we got a bunch of people logged on, many of whom
Good
have
stuff.
done farm successions. John McCart, our president of the QFA, is here. John, thanks for being here.
Always a pleasure. I'm
Perfect.
I skipped over I thought it was some kind of spam thing for trying to get the to do the survey, so now I'm back and I'm doing it.
Did you find it on the Facebook or in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
email I sent it? Okay,
yeah, yeah.
perfect.
Good stuff. No, it was not spam. I'm glad you're taking it.
We needed to put some agricultural emojis in there to make it seem more like that.
I
And
do
Brian,
remember. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say hi to our friend Brian Maloney, who I see here. Brian,
Hey,
very nice to see you. And
looking
lots of,
forward to it tonight.
yeah, absolutely. And lots of new faces as well. Um, my father is getting up and leaving, so I won't make any jokes at his expense either. Thank you for tuning in, folks. If you're wondering if you're right in the correct Zoom meeting, this is indeed transition, rethinking the legacy of the family farm with our friend Kelly-Anne Lahey of Predictive Success. We have another one coming up on March 25th. We will have another Quebec Farmers Association video conference with our friend Marshall Buchanan, who is an environmentalist, a forestry conservation expert, and a producer from out in the Ottawa Valley near Douglas and Eganville, if you know of those places. Marshall is an interesting guy who wears many hats, also ran for the NDP in that riding. But this will not be a political meeting. We are just talking about um, farming locally and trying to bring in environmental practices and conservation practices in the farm as a help and not a hindrance. And it's something that I know a lot of the producers in this group hold dear to their hearts as well. So that is going to be on March 25th, and I'll share a bit more information about that. I'm going to start recording, so you may hear a strange robotic voice in Zoom say recording started, but sometimes it doesn't do it. New updates.
Here,
And
I'll share my screen now. Is that okay?
sure,
Okay. And just let me know if folks can see okay. You see fine? Thumbs up?
I I see
Good
that.
stuff.
It's
Okay,
great. It's
good
the
stuff.
proper PowerPoint slide mode and not the I'm editing the PowerPoint presentation mode, which
Yeah,
sometimes happens.
I
So
love
yes,
that.
feel free to go ahead. Thank you so much.
Okay, and folks are just popping in. I see they're coming in. I'm just admitting
Yes.
them. So, okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Oh, I can
Okay,
do that. That's supposed to be my job. You shouldn't have to be
okay.
distracted with that. Thank you.
Okay, amazing. So first, I'd like to just thank everyone for having me here today. I want to talk to you about something that's important. As you know, you've probably had a couple conversations about transition right at this point and succession planning. Today is less about like the financial, legal implications of transition and succession planning, and it's more focused on the human side. Um, it's really about the conversation that when we think about the turning point in a life of a family farm. So, two big questions. We think about legacy. We think about legacy and planning. We're asking, what is our farm truly standing for? And what does it demand of us to survive and thrive beyond today? Okay, it's not just about handing something down, it's about protecting what matters and then preparing our, next gen for future. So I'm going to share a couple personal stories, and I'm also going to share some case studies. Now, 5 years ago, I saw an influx of farming clients reach out to us and said, "Hey, we are having the biggest challenge, to date, and it's on the topic of transition."
They're 10%.
Exactly. So it's this is something that we're seeing pop up more and more. B, it's not just about us as owner operators, it's not just about, us as the leaders. It's about the next gen talent. How do we actually bring them up to speed and get them ready? And I'll share my personal story, which is actually why I do what I do. So, a little bit about me. I grew up in Kingston, Ontario, in farming operations, family business. Went to Queen's University. Made a decision to go to Shanghai, China, and realized I really missed Canada. Came back and I worked at Deloitte in human capital consulting, specializing in family business, and really looked at how do we create organizations that are ready for next gen and ready for future. I now lead the consulting practice here at Predictive Success, and I'll share a bit more about how I got to Predictive Success, and it's a family story that's rooted in transition. So, a little bit about predictive success. So, for folks who are just joining, I popped a message in the chat. I sent out a behavioral assessment to complete. If you'd like to complete that, it's kind of like a personality or leadership assessment. Takes no more than 5 minutes, I promise. So, feel free to take that, and I'll reference a couple of the pieces as I'm talking through some of the concepts. But that's in the chat. Now, Predictive Success, we're a talent optimization consulting firm located in Whitby. So I know we say close to Toronto, but for this audience, I'll say 1.5 hours outside Kingston. Um, we have about 1,500 clients across North America, work across industries, across sectors. Some of our clients are, you can see them here. And really, many of us have the same challenges. It's how do we find good people? How do we keep good people? And how do we prepare next gen talent to kind of lead and take over once we're ready to pass the baton along? So, before we go any further, I really want to share my personal story and why this topic is so important to me. We talk about transition planning in theory, but many farms are living in what we call one-day syndrome. So the mindset of, we're going to get to this one day. We'll deal with this and, when the time's really necessary. And for many families, this feels quite safe, just until it's not. So this was actually my reality. My dad was a serial entrepreneur. He started in farming, went to publishing, then went to leadership and assessment consulting, which is predictive success today. So he's built some really great businesses from the ground up. Enter 2019. I was actually working at Deloitte at the time with a great Canadian farming organization. And I got a call from my dad. And he said, Look, Kelly-Anne, it's not looking good for me. I just got some really terrible news. I have throat cancer. Um, the prognosis was not good. He was given 4 weeks to live at the time. So overnight, I went from being his daughter and kind of at the side of my desk, I was interested in his business, interested in, the cool clients he was working with at the time, to being next in line to run the business. I remember sitting at on my dad's bed at Princess Margaret Hospital, meeting with, teams, pitching ideas to people I had never met, talking through succession on the back of a hospital piece of paper. I had never run a business, didn't know anything about his business, didn't know how he made money, didn't know what his margins were, didn't know anything about profitability. There was no transition plan, no roadmap, no prep. It was just responsibility, and sudden responsibility at that. It completely changed the trajectory of my career, and showed me a couple big key principles. Transition is not just about ownership. It cannot just be about ownership because technically, sure, I'm an owner. It's about readiness. It's about clarity. It's about protecting what my dad had built for the past 20, 30, 40 years. And this is why I care so deeply about getting this right, for family businesses in Canada. Okay. So I hope it's okay. I shared this story. I really want to be very clear about, the difference between, sure, you're an owner, but let's talk about what that means, on paper. Let's talk about the objective element of transition. Okay.
Hmm.
So feel free to jump in at any point. If you have questions, comments, I want this to be as, interactive as possible. I know recognizing timing as well. So transition planning, this is, you've probably, these stats inside and out, it's difficult, it's hard, it's uncomfortable. 50 billion in farm assets are set to change hands in the next decade. We know this. Only 1 in 12 farms are prepared for the future. We also know this. The why, and I'm sure you've had many conversations about this. Many of us are unsure where to start. We often get a little confused or we get boggled down with the financial and the legal side of succession and transition planning, but we don't always think about, well, who's coming up next? What are their skills? What are their capabilities? And sometimes there's some hard conversations you have to have. Do we have the right next gen leader? Um, Again, one day syndrome. I'm young. I don't have to worry about that now. Okay, what if you win the lottery? Let's put a positive spin on it. Limited data to support decisions. This is a big one. Some of us have a gut feel, and sometimes we go with that gut feel, but starting to think about, okay, we run numbers on every other area of our business. Why are we not running numbers on, or at least running data on our people and our talent and our leaders? Okay. Um, and then, of course, the compounding challenges that we're faced with today, the market swings and AI and push for innovation, obviously rising costs, trade uncertainty, weather volatility, et cetera. You know this. Like this is a wild time to be in farming, wild time to really leave tradition and have to explore creative transition or creative ways of operating. So it brings me to kind of the thesis of why I'm here. The question becomes, how do we secure a more promising future for, us as Canadian farming leaders? Now, from our work, I've worked with about 10 Canadian farms across Canada this year and last. And the same kind of questions popped up, most of them concerned with three things. One, what happens if I leave? There's no one to run my business. No one knows my financials. No one knows how to operate, the heavy machinery. I am a key person risk. So what do I do? Number one. Second piece is maybe next gen talent not ready. How do I get them ready? They don't know anything about farming, or maybe they don't know anything about business. Like, what do I do? What is my next step? And then the third step is I've never really had to think about, stepping in and being a CEO if we're thinking about growth. And I'll talk about the case study that I'm referring to, but I'll never forget with, I will call him Alex. He's a owner operator, and he said, Kelly-Anne, I need to start thinking of myself as a CEO because my farm is growing. I'm expanding my farm sites. I cannot continue operating as an owner operator. I need to be thinking of myself as a business person. And that's great. But then I have other clients who are, I'm scaling down. What do I do next? How do I transition out? So lots of conversations and lots of questions. So the four things I'll cover today: solidify your legacy and direction. We'll go through this, and I'll talk about a case that talks through what it meant for the farm that I'm talking about. Understanding your own leadership model. So this is the predictive index. Now, we don't have to use predictive index. You could use any behavioral assessment. There's lots of really good ones out there. We'll talk about why it's so important to know how you're wired and how you're actually designed to operate. Because what we don't want is square peg, round hole. We don't want burnout next gen if we don't have the right talent. Building the right team around you, so building the right infrastructure. And I'll talk about that as well. And then building your talent inventory. So if I'm a owner operator, I have 3 kids, how do I actually structure the business and how do I start thinking about who should be doing what? Okay.
Hmm.
Any questions so far?
No, I think the silence is because we feel we're in good hands and,
Okay,
have
good stuff.
that's what you're picking up on. That's the feeling in the room.
Okay. And if there's any questions or comments, interrupt me at any point. Okay, so the first two, and this is really when I think back to the work I did in some of the big four consulting, these are some of the things that you're paying, let's say hundreds of thousands of dollars to have done, starting to think about the legacy. And you know what it means. Like the legacy is what you're holding on to. So the definition here, it's what endures, what remains true about your farm, your family, your community, your ways of working. Now, keynote here is long after today's decisions are made. Okay. So a good way of looking at this is if you tap someone in the community and said, "What do you think about my farm?" What are the first words that come out of their mouth? Okay, across 4 domains: the land, the family, the business, and then we have wows, but that's ways of working. Okay. So land, what choices are you making today to support future viability? Are you farming just for today or are you farming for next gen? Family, this is a big one. Does the farm strengthen your family relationships or does it cause tension? And sometimes we avoid that question because the answer is frightening to us. Business. Can your farm weather change if there's something big or scary or massive that comes through? Um, what happens if you as an owner operator leave? Do we have someone to step in? Do they know your financials? Do we have advisors, the right advisors in place? Ways of working. How do we preserve the how? The knowledge, the values, our work ethic and culture. How do we push that down to next gen? Okay. Now the impact of having this done right is it anchors all decisions that we're going to live by. It reduces our uncertainty and it ensures that we can live beyond our, one generation. Okay. Second piece is, and this is a big one, and I'll say this is often missed, solidifying your strategic direction. The same client, I'll call him Alex for the farming community is small, but early conversations, I said, Alex, do you have a strategic plan? I said, Kelly-Anne, I'm out there farming. I have no time to build a strategic plan. Like I am working all day, often at night. I'm checking on we'll call them turkeys. Um, I don't have time for this. I said, okay, great. What do you want to do? What do you want to be when you grow up? He said, I don't know. I said, well, why are we doing what we're doing? If we have no path forward,
Mhm.
there's a bit of a disconnect here. You know that you want to transition out, but there's no path forward. Okay. So that's actually quite common. And I'd say all 10 clients we've worked with had a general idea of where they'd like to be going, but no documented plan. Don't know where they're going to be in 3 years. Don't know where they're going to be in 5 years. They're operating, they're putting out fires. Okay. So the four things you want to be thinking about is where are we now? Where are we going? What is our plan? And how are we going to track progress? So I'd say most of us know current state. We know how our farm's doing today. Where are we going? Maybe you have some general idea. Our plan to get there, not a lot of us know. And tracking progress, no way. We're not in the business of tracking progress. Maybe in some things, operational effectiveness and operational efficiency is fine. But tracking our little wins, we don't do a good job at. As owner operators, we assume that we're going to get it right. We're not tracking our short wins, which helps build us our story. So I'm going to share a little bit of course, as a consultant, we have to have a grid or some type of matrix on, some slide, but this is a very good one because it does help us understand the different types of farm kind of operation. Now, I want you thinking from two lenses. The y-axis, so the tall, element, there's the legacy strength. So these are the roots. How deep are your roots? Do your values, does next gen feel your values? Do they know them? Does the community have a strong grip on those values? And then across the bottom, we have the strategic orientation, the eyes. Are you looking down? Are you putting out fires? Or are you looking into the future? 3, 5, 10 years down the road, do you have a general idea? Is it documented? So there's different types of, we'll call them archetypes of what a farm owner operator may be thinking. And I'd say almost all 10 of my clients are in that guarding territory. They have strong legacy. They're, third, fourth generation farmers, but there's no strategy. There's no time. I don't have the right staff. It's hard to find talent. I'm out in the field all day. I don't have time to do this. Or we're in drifting territory, especially as transitions weaken, the legacy weakens if we're not doing it right. So then we have a weak legacy, weak strategy. We're in trouble. Many of my clients want to be in that top navigating bucket where they're preserving that strong legacy that took so long to get here, and they also are rooted in a strong strategy. So take a moment just to think about whether you're, next gen talent, whether you're, retired, whether you're, an owner operator. I want you thinking, where are you today? And where do you aspire to be? And the answer can be in the same bucket. I can be in guarding territory today, which is strong legacy and no strategy. And maybe that's okay if I'm, kind of condensing my farm or I'm selling off parts of my farm. Maybe that's fine. If I'm in expansion mode, I need to be in that navigating bucket. Okay. So just think about maybe where you are today, where you'd like to be in maybe 3, 5 years, and start thinking about, if there's a gap, pay attention to the next couple of slides. And if there's no gap, then that's great. Then we're in a good spot.
Hmm.
Okay. So I'm going to share a bit of a story. So this is Bay Ridge Farms. This is not the name of his real farm, but this is Alex here on the right. It actually looks a lot like Alex, like my client. But this is Alex. So he is a third generation turkey farmer, and he really prides himself on high quality product, very strong work ethic. He has a very small team for the size of his operations because he is a bit of a control complex. He wants to do everything, doesn't trust anybody. He's had some challenges in the past with health and safety, so he really wants to be in full control mode. He's a big family, 4 children. That for decades, this farm has been very stable, very respected in the industry and actually across the province. He's very passionate about, we'll call them turkeys, but very passionate and is seen as a subject matter expert actually across Canada. So he has strong aspirations. He says, "Look, the quota. There is something here. We need to grow. We need to expand. I need to get my kids more actively involved. All 4 of them are kind of half in, half out. How do I actually grow my vision and my mission? I want to expand my farm sites. I want to increase my quota, and I really want to diversify my product offering." Okay, so maybe we get into feed. So 4 kids, he's never been comfortable having the conversations. He's never delegated, like I said. This is true, he's never taken a vacation day. So not a surprise to a lot of you. Uh, but he's the only one with full picture on his books, full picture on his animals, full picture on the operations. Okay. He said to me, "Kelly-Anne, I'm in trouble. I'm unhappy. I'm burning out. I'm nearing 65. I need to pass this down. I need to slowly transition." Okay, so we'll talk through his 4 children. So the question on his mind was, what do I do about transition? 4 kids, no obvious clear-cut answer. We have Olivia, Far left, firstborn, high achiever. She worked part-time as farmhand, always thought to be a successor. She's, quite organized. Stephen, who's the relationship guy, he's very good with the processing companies that they're connecting with. Big picture ideas, innovative, likes production, has big aspirations. Henry, high performer, full-time farmhand, works across all farm sites, involved in like the farm expansion project, strong ideas, and just a high performer. And then there's Sophie, big ideas, strong opinions, quite, we'll call her excitable, but often overlooked. So Alex, again, he called me and said he's out. He actually said, I'm out of luck here. He said, I'm aging. Kids are half in, half out. I'm working too hard. What do I do? Here are the four kids. Can you meet them? He said, and tell me who's best. I kind of laughed to myself and said, sure, I can meet them, no problem, but that's not going to tell me anything. And that's where we actually administered the predictive index to get a better sense of, what their core motivating behaviors and drives are. Okay, so defining the legacy. Back to those principles. We had conversations about, well, what is important to you? By the end of conversation, we figured, okay, the land must be protected. We are going to invest in expansion. This we know. We came to the conclusion that the farms must be family owned. Okay. Operation, question mark, don't know who's going to operate, can't be Alex moving forward, but we need to get a clear answer. Third, businesses must function beyond Alex. That is a hard and fast rule. And the big one, this took a lot of time to get to, is next gen can anchor to the legacy, but must be open to evolving ways of working. So Alex was quite fixed on traditional farming methods, lots of interest in, okay, automation, AI, it's new, I'm confused, I don't really want to be a part of this, but I'm open to learning about how it can improve efficiency. So when we think about that four-box grid, he was definitely in guarding territory, very strong legacy, third generation, no strategy. We know this to be true, wants to be in navigating territory. So defining transition and future state, we have today, let's say $5 million business. His only objective was to produce high quality product. Big key person risk, as you know. Tomorrow, we plotted out a couple things that are important to him. So in 1 to 3 years, let's say we want to be an $8 million business. Yes, we want to still produce high quality product. We want to expand our farm site. We need to hire and staff these farms. We want to think about AI, automation, diversify, maybe feed, and then start introducing our transition org chart. Okay. His time investment is now moderate. Key person risk decreases. And then 4 to 8 years, this is quite down the road, but let's say we're a $10 million business, we have more quota, still wants to do high quality product. It's a bit more operational, less focused on growth, but we have a model in place. So now his time investment is low. Okay, so I'm going to just and keep this in mind because this is so important when we're designing for the future. And I'll never forget, I had a leader at Deloitte say to me, Kelly-Anne, we cannot be good, fast, and cheap. You have to decide, pick two of those three. You can't be all three. So as you're designing for the future, you want to be thinking about what is core? What are we designing for? I'm not going to pass my farm down to my kids if I don't know, A, what we aspire to be, and also what are their behavioral drives. If I'm in stabilization mode, maybe I can pass the farm to somebody who's, focused on stabilization. But if I'm in significant growth mode, I need to pass the farm or transition the farm over to somebody who's naturally wired to be thinking about how can we do this, better, faster, smarter to make, our to meet our targets. So predictive index, I'm going to go through this relatively quickly. I'm just using this as an anchor. You can use any behavioral assessment. There's a lot of really good tools out there. I use the predictive index assessment because it's fast, 5 minutes. I know people like fast and easy, but also scientifically valid and available in 70 plus languages. So 2 questions, if you've taken it, measures 4 factors. So based on Big Five for our psychology or personality interested folks, dominance, which is the drive to exert influence on people and events. Extroversion, drive for social interaction. Patience, the drive for stability. And formality, the drive to conform to rules. Okay. Also gives us an insight as to how somebody makes a decision. Are we more subjective? Do we go with gut feel more? Or are we more objective? Do we go for more evidence-based, right or wrong, yes or no? Now, this is so important because as owner operators, whether we have a team of one or whether we're a single, just us, or sorry, a team of 10 or just us, we want to be thinking about self-awareness. So this is a really cool study in, so the HBR did an article. They studied 5,000 participants and they found that 95% of people thought they're self-aware, but I'm actually going to hold this. What percentage do you think of folks actually are self-aware?
Ooh, like
10.
four. I was going to be generous and say 40.
It's shocking. It's 15%. So I mean, this was wild when I saw this, but it makes
Yeah.
also perfect sense. We deliver these sessions all the time across companies, across industries, and you often get people who are like, I'm not really sure about my results, but they've selected their terms. So after we talk through them, they're like, yes, I understand. And I'll never forget, we did a PI for like a CEO of a big company a couple years ago, and he said, Kellyanne, take my PI back to Boston and have them change my results. I don't like it. I said, you can do that, no problem. But why would you want to? The beauty is we need to understand how we're wired so we can be more effective leaders or owner operators, or managers. And then for next gen, we need to start thinking about how are we getting them ready? It starts with their behaviors. Okay, so Alex's PI is here. So you can see the top graph. He's actually somebody, and you can't read this, but I'll just give you a very high level overview. He is someone who's very detail oriented, does not like to get it wrong. He's quite patient, situationally patient, I'll say, but he is very analytical, someone who wants time to digest. He needs to be alone, doesn't love brainstorming live with his team. He wants to make decisions independently, but he also is quite harmonious. He likes cohesion, does not like confrontation. So the fact he has four children and he has to make some tough decisions, very difficult for him, very, very stressful. The self concept is the middle graph, and that actually measures the mask we wear at work. So you can see that he actually has, you can see the patterns are quite different. He is wearing a different mask. He's putting on the front at work that he's someone who's, we call a captain, someone who's take charge of the ship. I'm extroverted, I'm social, I'm lively. I can manage relationships with anybody. I'm very fast paced and I'm very detail oriented. We know that's not how he's naturally wired to be. So this is what's causing burnout. He is having to change too many of his behaviors over time, and that's caused, quite a bit of stress for him. So when we think about replicating the model, we may want to think about hiring somebody or choosing a successor who looks like him if we're in stabilization mode. But because we're in heavy growth mode, we need to find someone who looks more like his self-concept, the mask he's wearing. Okay.
Hmm.
So we know that his goal in 1 to 3 years is high quality product expansion, hiring new people, exploring automation and diversification. So more relationships with processing folks, like getting the right relationships in place so he can grow. And what that means is our leadership model demands something different from Alex. Okay. So we took a little bit of an assessment together and we decided that the next best thing for him is somebody who is a big picture thinker, someone who's great at managing relationships, somebody who's fast paced, can manage multiple farm sites, and also somebody who's detail oriented when they need to be, but not going to bog them down. So that's what we're finding with Alex now. He can't go from, there's 4 farm sites. He can't go from one farm site to another. Some of them are 40 minutes apart. He gets so focused on one, forgets about the other. It may not be the best fit for him as the farm expands. So the question becomes, who's the right fit? I want you to start thinking about this from 3 lenses. Um, Traditional transition planning or succession management is often just about the knapsack or just about the heart. So in family business, often it's, well, let's say Johnny has the most, pizzazz for farming. Let's bring him in, and that's the heart. His values align quite nicely with mine, and the roots are strong. So let's just hand it to him. Or
Hmm.
knapsack. Technically, let's say they're a great farmer. They know the ins and outs of feeding the chickens, or caring for and any animal, but they have the right, competencies, we'll say, to get it done. But we often forget about the head. How are they wired? How are they motivated? I can almost predict with certainty if a farm's going to succeed or not by looking at somebody's full picture. So, do they have what it takes? Are they wired the right way? because that's going to dictate a lot about how they manage and how they inspire next gen talent. Okay. Now, this is a little bit about building the team around you. It's so important in your own businesses, because, we want to think about getting the right person into the door. Now, there's four folks here. We have Olivia, we'll call her a bit of a craftsman, like I said, perfectionist, really likes to cross her T's, dot her I's. Steven's a relationship guy. Henry's just a high performer, solid farmhand. And Sophie's kind of works across all farm sites, chatting with the different farmhands and introducing new novel ideas. So what we actually found was the best fits are actually Stephen and Sophie. So thinking about next, evolution of the farm, we know that we're in growth mode. We know relationships are going to be important as we diversify. If feed's now important to us, maybe, we sell it elsewhere. We diversify. We're going to need a persuader. We're going to need a captain in place so they can start, pushing those relationships and driving the agenda forward. So finding a home for everybody is important. That was a guiding principle for Alex, said find a home for all four of my kids. I want them to be in the best spot. And I want you to root this in objectivity, because I can't go to the dinner table and tell Olivia that she's not going to be the next, owner operator.
Hmm.
So we need to ground every decision in data. So we did a bit of a org design, and we came up with a structure that was grounded in data. So based on the predictive index, we decided that Sophie would be the best fit. And it's interesting because on paper, Sophie wasn't our first choice. Sophie was probably the third choice. And if you notice where Henry, was happy being a farmhand, he gave everything to being a solid farmhand. But that's what he wanted to do. He had no interest in people management. He had no interest in, running the business. So talking to Sophie, natural fit, cognitively, natural fit. She had the right behaviors. We're not designing for today. We are designing with the future in mind. Okay, and that's where so many of us get it wrong in transition. We're thinking about who has it right today. We need to be thinking about
Hmm.
potential and getting the behavioral drives nailed down. Okay, so Stephen, farm manager, we know there's 4 farm sites. Just 2 points I want to make here. Stephen, be great. Like build out those strong relationships, have the strong relationships with the processing folks, and then Alex can take a step back and slowly transition out, stepping into a farm manager role, while he provides advisory to Sophie. So the farm D, we'll call it, it's a low yield farm, quiet, perfect for Alex to kind of weigh in and kind of move fluidly in transition state. Okay. Any questions so far? No?
I mean, my question is, what if the children collectively, what if the personalities don't have the proper combined skill set to actually run the business, and who can say that? Or does that happen so infrequently that
No, it happens all the time.
Mhm.
And this is actually a similar story. We had a client call us and say, I have 2 kids, they're kind of interested. We did the PI, they both weren't a fit. 2 boys,
Hmm.
they were half in, half out of the business. They didn't really want to do it. They just didn't know what else they wanted to do. And
Yeah.
I gave him tough advice, and we've had so many conversations about it. I said, they're not the right fit. And you have to have that, like, look yourself in the mirror and think about the data. Because for the longest time, the conversation was, how can you get my boys ready? And
Yeah.
and that's one avenue. If you are going in without the data, sure, let's use their personality to get them ready, but we know what way this business is going to go. If like we have skill, hill, and will. Skill is one thing. Hill, cognitively, can they climb that hill? And then do they want to do it? Do they have the motivation? If they don't and they have the wrong personality, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So then the answer maybe we need to look outside of, our immediate
The family.
family. That's a very hard conversation. And
Yeah.
he's made the decision to go against our guidance and promoted one of his sons to owner operator. And it's fine. I mean, it's your family. It's your legacy by all means, but at least use the data to enable that son to step in.
Hmm.
That's a really good question. Okay. So that actually leads to my next piece here. It's like you're a plant, but building the right team around you is so important, because when we think about strategy, you can see there's 4 quadrants in this circle here. There's teamwork and employee experience in the top left. There's innovation, there's results and discipline, and there's process and precision. So if you think about like those two black circles, we actually have it's a part of our strategic objective, but we don't have anyone here. So do we need to hire? Do we need to look outside our immediate family? And I actually did a recruitment project for one of my clients and he met maybe 20, 30 candidates and he's like, nobody is better than my kids. And I think it's because I
Mm.
like my kids more and I want to work with my kids. And that's something that, it goes in hand with the legacy piece. But at least you have data to make that decision. So here's the exact question. What happens if no one wants to
Mm.
take over the business or we don't have the right candidate? Start looking externally, get that data so we can point to the data and make a business case for why incumbent A is better than Olivia or why incumbent A is better than Henry. Okay. So in this case, incumbent B would be great. Now, just one more topic I'll cover before I open it up to questions. And this is one thing I'll say that 10 out of 10 of my clients do not do. Nobody does this. We think transition ends with like picking or tapping the folks on the head. Uh, well, no, it's now about empowering next gen. So there's a little image here, and you can see on the left hand of the river, this is where most of us stop. We have, oh, and there's admitting. Okay, and John has a question. Go ahead, John.
Oh, I was just getting prepared for when you finish your next slide.
Oh, okay. Okay. No
All
problem.
right.
No worries. So on the left of the river, we are observing and we're understanding each other. We're observing and understanding, our next gen talent. But very few of us cross the river and get into engagement and development territory. Okay, we're just not doing it. Sure, it's nothing for us to watch and observe people. We notice their strengths, we see their personality, we can recognize their potential, and that's valuable, but that's not leadership. Leadership is crossing that river and thinking about how we're using data to engage the talent and develop them. Okay, the real goal is to cross the river from awareness into action. Okay, sorry. Now over to John for your question.
Okay, thanks a lot for your presentation. A few questions came to my mind, and one is your example was someone around the 65-year
Hmm.
age, and he's probably 20 years too late in starting to develop a plan.
Totally.
And if you start early enough, you can groom your children and find out exactly if they want to do it. And
Mm.
as you said, we you discussed what if nobody wants to do it, and the owner still wants to have a legacy. That's the time to start looking outside. Does he still want to retain ownership but pass the roles of managing on to somebody else? All things for food for thought, and that's where being a good human resource manager doesn't necessarily mean for hiring outside the family. It means being
Hmm.
able to enable your family to work well with them.
Yeah. It's a good point. And he recognized that. He said 65, he's 65. His kids are all of age to step in and run the business. And he said, I did everything I could. They worked the farms this summer. Um, there was interest, but folks started shiny object syndrome. Some of them moved to BC to study finance. Some of them, went to work at a coffee shop in the city. It's just, to your point, starting to plant the seeds early so that there is opportunity to bridge some of those gaps, and develop the skills so that we are ready and we have multiple avenues we can travel. So we're not at a cliff and we're forced to jump.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a good point. So this is now about getting that next gen ready. So if and I remember talking to my dad about this, he said, by the time you were 17, I knew what you were capable of. I knew what you, your brother and sister were interested in. So by then, even though your brain's not fully formed until you're 25, you have a general idea on whether or not someone's going to go a specific way or not. Okay, so back to our friend Sophie here. If we're thinking about observing and understanding her, we are using data to lead. So we're not guessing. We know that she is wired to want to drive. She wants to talk it out, brainstorm live. She wants variety. So putting her on the same farm site, doing the same thing day in, day out is painful for her. So now knowing that, we need her to be managing 4 farm sites and new projects. Like, should we think about processing capabilities? Should we think about, a feed? Operation. Like let's start thinking about the innovative ideas as well. She wants to drive, she wants to brainstorm, give her variety and give her flexibility. If we have someone hovering over her, it's not going to work. She needs space to think through things through. Okay. Even though she's young, we have to give her some space, but a little bit of, authority. Okay. So as we think about engaging her, we want to think about how does she interact with her peers? Because I'm putting her at the head of my business or my farm. Um, I need her to, maintain the same values that I'm holding or clinging on to dearly. If I have built my farm with communal family values, like we start every day with a coffee together, then and that's important, that's holding talent with, to my farm, then she has to, follow suit. Um, unless, there's something that she's shaking and it's no longer a value, but there's some things that we need to instill early so that they recognize the value of this community. So how does she interact? How does she take action? And how does she make decisions? So this individual wants space to think, involve her in the decision making from early on. The worst thing we can do as owner operators is hold those hard decisions, in a small group and not involve next gen talent. We should be a part of decisions so that we're ready and able to step in when need be. Provide her with autonomy with guardrails. That's a big one. Give her many projects to run. If a machine breaks down, go fix it. If you don't know how, figure it out. And I'll be here to catch you if you fall. And allow flexibility, but really ensuring accountability as well. So, 2 things I want you to think about: trust deposits and trust withdrawals. When you're thinking about your family, you're thinking about the folks on your farm, what are you doing to build trust deposits with them? And that's knowing their personality, knowing that, let's say, every time I talk to John, I know he needs space and time to think. I'm not going to go ask him for an answer right now. I'm going to send, pepper the idea and I'll give him space. Um, and I don't know his PI yet, so I don't know if that's real. But trust withdrawals, let's say somebody is, extremely extroverted and wants to have coffee every morning, and I'm an introvert. I don't want to talk to them every day. I don't want to ask about their weekend because I don't care. You know, we want to be thinking about that as well. Trust withdrawals is I need to spend time with you as my farmhand. I need to understand what are you passionate about? What do you like to do outside of work if you're extroverted as well? So rolling up our sleeves and getting to know our teams is so important because that's where we will find the clues for how to really engage and manage them. And then the biggest thing is the development plan. So perfect question, John. The readiness plan starts very early. It's not a one, and I think this is what a lot of us think. It's a one-way plan. It has to be a two-way plan. We need Sophie's buy-in. Can over communicate. I think, early days, my dad said, I have all these ideas for you for courses I want you to take or, walkthroughs I want you to have. Didn't communicate it. Day of, he says, you're doing a Pure Later drive with this character to learn about this business. I'm like, what? Things like that. We need to be thinking about over communicate with next gen. Do it yourself. Think about SWOT. SWOT of Sophie. What are her strengths? What are her weaknesses? What are her opportunities? And what are her risks? What are the risks that will throw her off course? Get ahead of that. Then you build out these short, medium, and long-term goals for her with her and make them smart. You know about SMART goals, make them specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Okay. And then the last piece is tracking actions. Next gen talent needs small wins. Sometimes we just assume they'll be fine. They have it. They have the family gene. They'll get it. Give them small wins. Celebrate their small wins. If they're introverted, celebrate small wins with them privately. If they're extroverted, share their news to the world. We want to be thinking about how can we enable, develop, and prepare next gen talent so they can step in tomorrow. Okay. I'm almost done. Don't worry. One more slide to get through. Now, when we think about getting creative with transition planning, this is where we fall down. It's not a one-time event. One of my clients last year, dairy farm, said, "You know what? I figured it out. I know who's my next my legacy. I know who's my transition. I'm done." Right? I said, this is the start of it. And, to John's earlier point, you were too late. We need to get ahead of it and we need to tap them on the shoulder and build out the long land lasting plan. Understanding your leadership model, what are your drives? Who are you and how are you wired? Because that also is a key input to knowing about what tomorrow needs. Building the team around you. So thinking about the strategy, the legacy, getting the right infrastructure so that your farm is ready and able, and then building the talent inventory. So doing your walk arounds, knowing what folks are good at, how they're wired, so you can cross that river to get into the land of engagement and development, and you're not just observing behavior. So I'll leave you with a couple pieces here. It's those who succeed have the courage to start early, as John mentioned, the discipline to plan, the humility to prepare others. That's not easy. I know a lot of us are, as owner operators, we want to do. It's hard to pass the reins down, and then the clarity to actually lead the change. And I often will end with a challenge for you is, if your next or the 1 day syndrome comes tomorrow, what are you doing today to prepare for that? And also, I want you to challenge yourself, do your walkarounds and start thinking about what do people need from me? Okay. And how are they wired? What can I give them so that they are continually engaged and not doing this out of obligation? Okay. So two things. Thank you so much for listening and for being such a great audience. I did send the link to the PI. If you have not had the chance to take it, feel free to do so. If you would like a read back and go through your three kind of graphs, I'm happy to do that as well. This is an area, as I mentioned, is so passionate and critical to the Canadian economy, so we need to get this right. But yeah, I appreciate your time and your interest, and I open up the floor to any questions or comments that you may have.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kellyanne. That's a really succinct and well organized summary of some of the dynamics that play in farm transition. I know there's a lot of producers in this room who have successfully gone through farm transitions. And so I'd love for them to share their experiences and how it aligns with the things you spoke about or how not. I will let John McCart take the first question because it's probably better than the one I have in my head, but maybe not. We'll
Yeah.
see. I'll ask mine after.
If I don't do it now, I'll forget what I want to ask. Um, One thing is that I think it's bred into the farming mentality that you're going to do it forever.
Hmm.
And I don't see any farmer that, even if he starts at 50, keep a role on the farm or something like that,
Hmm.
and grow from there. But how do you see a difference? Because you do obviously work with a lot of other enterprises.
Hmm.
Um, do you find dealing with farmers that they're so far behind the ball compared to other industries?
No, I think it's more like the entrepreneurs. Like I laugh at when I was at KPMG, I remember one of our partners retired and they moved her office downstairs. And I said, "Well, why is her office moved downstairs?" And it's the mentality of they're just going to keep working and working and working, and we need to make the
Mm.
physical separation of enabling the new partner to step in and the old partner to shift their office. I think it's anyone like farmers are naturally more entrepreneurial. They're more focused on their craft, and you don't want to leave your craft because it's a part of your identity. It's a part of who you are, and it's a tough transition out. It's like my dad. He had he's still alive today, so we had a clinical trial and it was great, good news story. But he said, you know what, when he was sick, he said, I'm ready to shift to my next phase of life. He's still working 40 hours a week. The guy, it's like
Mm.
farming mentality. I was the work ethic. I'm made to work hard and I don't want to let that go. So for sure, but I think they're actually ahead of a lot of other industries because in some industries it's like, look, I'm retiring, I'm hanging up my jersey and I'm walking away. We don't get
Thanks.
that in farming.
Yeah. I'm curious about, we spoke earlier about what happens when the collective talents of the next generation don't necessarily add up to a great farming entrepreneurial or farming management team.
Mhm.
But one of the things I hear about happening more often is, and this jives with what we were talking about, 15% of people actually being self-aware. What I hear and see happening is how often people feel they have a capacity and an ability to do type of work when they're not.
Hmm.
And have you ever seen that kind of situation be resolved well? Because that is the very stuff of family conflicts, and in
Yeah.
this case, family business conflicts.
Yeah. And we do a lot of work with some of the big Canadian family businesses and a lot of
Yeah,
very tough conversations. If somebody's not naturally wired to be doing, I don't know, like let's say leading the business, um, then it's a conversation of like the skill hill will. Sure, like you can choose to go against the predictive index. You can choose to go against how someone's wired. It doesn't mean they're not going to be successful. They may have the right cognitive ability, pick up information quickly, have that get it factor. And that's a big piece of the puzzle as well. Or they may be a technical superstar. Maybe they know how to, I don't know, do X, Y, or Z faster, better, smarter than somebody else. So a personality assessment can never be a silver bullet, but it is a good piece of data to help us understand how someone's going to step into role, interact with their team and colleagues, and either propel the business forward or stabilize it, or if we're in governance mode, that's a piece of the puzzle too. So yeah, it is not a silver bullet. It's a good piece of data, but we also need to think about their skills, their competencies, and then their cognitive agility or how quickly they pick up information.
yeah. Anyone else, if they want to ask a question, go down to the React button here and feel free to raise your hand, or if you want to share an experience that you've had with your farm transition as well. Um, One of the other things I'm wondering is how often how often has it occurred when clients and families kind of come to an impasse where they have to take up that to make that hard decision to hire someone from outside of the family or someone not from the immediate family. Um, and how often does that happen in farming or non-farming clients you have?
Yeah, I'll say it's rare. I think because we've
Hmm.
built our own legacy and family one, like some of them guiding principles, like in this case in Alex's business. Look, I don't care what happens, but ownership needs to stay in my family. Like get someone
Hmm.
to operate it, get someone to manage it, and but my wife, my kids will always be the owners. And that was a guiding principle to them. I did have a client a couple years ago, who's right off the bat said, "Look, I don't really care what happens. I just need out. I'm gonna have a nervous breakdown." So there's varying degrees of well, where are you in your own transition in, out of the business, or are you or transitioning to the side of the business, we'll say. But I'd say for family business, I'll say it's rare. And it really has to be that someone is not, they're not here, they're not interested. My kids are self-selecting out of the business versus, they're not a fit. I think I see that less. I think I see, kids self-selecting out much more.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we've seen here. And I even think that I've observed in the past, less than 20 years, is that I'm going to call them farm kids, but often in
Hmm.
in this situation, they're in their mid 30s.
Hmm.
Um, the next generation looking at what mom and dad did or
Hmm.
grandpa and granny did and realizing that they don't want to run a dairy operation. They'd rather have time to go on vacation somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, and there's organizations now nationally in Quebec as well that try to pair farms that don't have a clear identifiable successor
Hmm.
with entrepreneurs who actually want to take on a farm but maybe don't have one coming down to them in the
Right.
family inheritance.
Right.
I'm wondering if you've observed that cultural shift as well. And I'm also wondering uh, if you see it in other areas of business.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. We do a lot of work with startups, and some of these folks they're ready to get their hands on anything. It's their PI. I'm ready to take something and turn it around. I'm ready to take
Mhm.
something and grow it. That's how I'm wired. But some folks are not wired to think that. They just want to go in and deliver a high quality product. I want to deliver the best turkeys that I can. And that's what my grandparents did, and that's what my great grandparents did, and that's what we've done since the beginning of time. Um, but then again, there's also generational challenges where, and I think this is across industries, where kids may not want to work as hard as, they saw that, their dad, Alex, had never taken a vacation day. He'd
Hmm.
never gone on family vacation. He had no one to trust. Missed their, soccer games. There's a whole bunch of variables. But in conversations with Alex, I remember him saying, "Look, I need to show my kids that this is a very good career option for them." And I asked him to jot down the three reasons why. And one was you get to spend and work with your kids every day. I thought that was so sweet. But
Yeah.
two is it's like a vocational calling. You are being called to feed Canada. What is better than that? And I think that's something that's in the values and something that's distilled, down through the organization, or the farm. And then the third piece is, it's the excitement. I get to create my own vision. I get to do this every day. So I think it goes back to the question of values, and that's certainly what Alex had struggled to do because he was kind of a single lone wolf who just went out and did the
Mhm.
farming, came home for dinner, went back out, and that's the value that his family had instilled was the solid work ethic.
Yeah, and in a way, it's interesting to see that old Canadian Protestant work ethic get a little bit softened now.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I'll go to Cheryl Layer, who's just got her hand up here. Thanks, Cheryl.
Hi. Excuse me. I have 5 kids.
Mhm.
None of them are really interested in the farm, but they don't want the farm to go
Mm.
out of the family proper. They
Mhm.
want it to stay in the family because we're fifth and sixth generations.
Yes.
What do you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a part of these conversations myself, and I remember actually before my dad had gotten sick at that point, we all said the same thing. We don't want to be in this, we don't want to do our own thing. We don't want to own something. We want to just put in our 9 to 5 and go home and, be done with work. Um, I think it's good to get to know what each of those children want to do, but also how they're wired. Send them the PI and you can go through it with them because sometimes it's a bit of, and how old are they? Are they in their
Um, they're ranging from 22 to 40.
Yeah, so still figuring it out, but getting their wiring, like knowing that their personality as well. I think it was a bit of for me seeing my personality on paper, being like, wait, I can actually do this.
Mhm.
Um, because I think sometimes in family business, like my dad just did everything, and I was just a support. And I think part of it is on paper, no, you're assertive. You have the drive, the proactive, tenacious drive to do something, and see it on paper. So, I mean, I can send you the PI to send to them and get, some of the conversations started. But I think that's where I would start is understanding how they're wired, because then that opens up some difficult conversations. And you probably know in your gut which kids maybe are really truly out and which ones are maybe on the fence and need some coaching or, deeper conversations.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. And yes, please send us the PI.
If you send that link to your 5 children, they should be able to take it. It's an open link.
I haven't found it yet.
Oh, is
It's
it?
there in the chat.
It's
I
in
put
the
it in the
chat.
chat twice.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully, but I'll send it to you directly again. Um,
Thank you.
There, yes, I can put it in as well. And then you
yeah.
can email me. I can also send it directly if you don't get it. I just sent it again.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely a story that we hear, all the time at the Quebec Farmers Association. And part of the challenge, I think, is not thinking it as the end of a family legacy, but also
Yeah.
the way that new people can be brought into agriculture
Yes.
and have a career in it and have some really different ways of looking at it.
And
Uh, Yeah,
And
go
sorry,
for
just
it.
on that note, just want to one thing that we had done is we had set up mentorship programs for some of the junior like farm families, and that did wonders. There was one instance where um, big family. We had set up an internship program, or sorry, a mentorship program for two of the, we'll call them high potential successors, and paired them up with a high yield or high production farm and the future successors. So create, and these mentors are about 5, 10 years older than them, and gave them a viable example of what leadership may look like. Let's say as a female farmer, um, outside of your parents. So I know sometimes the Canadian farming community is small, but just setting up the right, let's call them mentors or examples, so that there is that, you know, let, opportunity to see what this looks like and what my life would look like
Mhm.
outside of my parents.
Yeah. Stan Christensen, beef producer from up in Lac Ste. Marie, Quebec. Stan, thanks for being here. Please go ahead with your question or story.
Yeah, well, just commentary. One of the challenges we're seeing, we've tried to build some sort of pride in developing, redeveloping beef production in Quebec because we've seen a significant drop. But we do have a cultural issue that if you're raising beef cattle, a lot of people, I remember sitting in on a meeting and whatever, and a lot of people said, "Well, I've told my kids they better not get into that. It has no future,"
Mm,
because the beef farms are, in general, quite small, and people seem to have this negativity around it. And at the same time, we have a few who see a way forward with that. You probably don't see it as much in the West as here, uh, because some of the farms are a little larger, but most of the ones we have we're dealing with
Hmm.
are a single operator, and then he's trying to find another single operator, uh, which is very challenging when you don't have neighbors
Hmm.
hmm
you can visit with and get feedback and everything. Um, it's one of those things that we find difficult. I remember sitting at Spruce Meadows with somebody from Manitoba when I was on the board for Canadian Angus, and well, we had the Canadian Angus or the World Angus Forum there, and he said, well, he has a son that's the same age as my oldest son, and he said, well, we just decided transition was going to go this way. And he said, my son said, whoa, 300 purebred cows, another 250 commercial cows, 2,000 acres of grain and everything. He said, no, no, I don't want to start there at all. I want to start somewhere between where you started and where you are now.
Hmm.
And so sometimes we've got to make sure um, that we ask the right questions. We make sure that we don't create expectations that they're going to pick up
Yeah,
from where we left off.
totally.
Down from them. So that was a comment. Yeah, it's really important. We build that in fairly early. Just we registered our partnership when my oldest son was 8 and the youngest one was 2. Um, so there was lots of room there for the future.
It's a really good point about expectation management. I think because often, like I look at, let's say, a family business now, and it's so much more successful than it would be if I were to, step in and lead, the same business. It's really important because the next gen leaders, I remember the advice I got from an advisor very early on said, first generation starts the business, second generation grows the business, third generation will ruin it. And I remember that was in the back of my head because as a third generation, future owner operator, I'm like, I'll never succeed. That's in the back of my mind.
Mm,
But the guidance was because you have this handed to you in a certain way, unless you have that expectation management. To your point, Stanley, you're not going to be stepping into something, um, you're stepping into something different than what you had stepped into. So, I think that's a very wise conversation to have. Sorry, was there a
yeah.
follow-up question? I just saw his hand go up again.
No, I don't think
Maybe,
so.
okay, cool. Okay.
Um, any more questions before we go? Please raise your hand or unmute yourself. Um, we hadn't and thank you, Kellyanne, for so much for sharing your story about being in a family business yourself. Here in the agricultural industry, we often tend to think that the business side of it is so different
Hmm.
because it's not only a family business, but it's part of the family home as well that the business is run out of. But the more that we hear stories like this, the more you realize that family business is its own beast. That
Hmm.
is a great thing and is also an immense amount of pressure. So thanks for sharing that part of your story with us. I really appreciate it, and glad to hear that your dad is still there
Yes.
and still and
Yes.
still
Well, it's so
working.
funny because like about I don't know, I was getting into the groove of running the business and he said, you know what? I want my business back. You know, like I'm good. Um, but no, this has been a great conversation. It's a passion
No.
of mine. Canadian family business is so important to get right. Everyone from like the JD Irvings of the world out east, all the way
Mm.
to the mom and pop, family business coffee shop at the end of my street. We all have the same challenges, similar challenges with people transition. But Canadian farming is so important, especially in this economic climate, to get right. So I'm willing to support in any way I can. Please feel free to reach out. I'll put my email on the screen again, and perhaps it can be passed out. But
Oh yeah, there we
please
are.
reach out at any point if you want to go through your own PI results, predictive index results. I'm happy to do that with you, or send it to your, future successors or the folks involved in your network. I'm happy to dive in and explore with you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We got some more comments from Stan. Do you have another comment, or is
Yeah,
it your hand from
just
before?
a
Go for
short
it.
one. I was just reflecting. I saw a couple of things, and one of the television shows I watch often is Heartland, and
Oh yeah.
I had a little bit of exposure to another one in the U.S. and I was just thinking that one of the major differences between ranching in the U.S. and Canada, they think
Hmm.
they're Yellowstone, and we know we're Heartland.
Yeah. Um, and Armin,
Yes,
I believe you have a comment or your frequent review
yes.
of the video conference,
Can you hear
which is
me?
something I personally always look forward to. Yes, we can absolutely hear you. Armin
Yes,
Raff out in the Eastern Townships in
yes.
Stansted.
I'm in Stansted, Quebec. Anybody watches the world news? I live right there. We have a library, half American, half Canadian. That will tell you
Mhm.
exactly where I live.
Hmm.
1 kilometer
Wow.
from there. All right. I've been listening to you. It's very interesting. And I think family farms are very important. And we don't stress enough. Something I found out last December at our annual UPA, Union des Producteurs Agricoles meeting. Agriculture sector generates 5 times more revenue for Canada than the automobile industry.
Yeah,
Everything always turns over the automobile industry.
yeah.
And I kind of say it's high time we take our stand and we say, listen, stop talking just about automobile industry. Agriculture generates 5 times more money for the country. And I think the agriculture minister last year in Quebec in December, I told him I want them tariffs gone because we want to sell agriculture products to the Chinese. 1,300,000,000. Looks like somebody listened to me, so I'm happy with that. All right. Very nice. You explained it well because it's so complicated, from one farm to the other. And the shoe fits Pierre doesn't fit, they're going to fit the Peter. It's every farm is different. And something else I want to stress we have to defend a lot of people which are going to take their father's farm or mother's farm over. They stopped schooling at 16 years. They worked with them.
Hmm.
And then a lot of times, financial institutions and other things say, oh, you don't have no education. You didn't go to
Yeah.
school.
Hmm.
Oh, we can't lend you any money or this and that.
Hmm.
That's something gets me awful upset
Hmm.
because sometimes the fella who worked from 16 to 36 with his dad, he learned more
Hmm.
and he's more qualified than the guy who you sent 10 years to school. Anyway, that's my opinion. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Totally. And I think we over-vector on the school sometimes. I came back from Shanghai. I did a graduate degree. I remember my dad was like, "That's of no use to me." Like, great, good for you. You did the schooling piece. How helpful can you be in, feed operations? So I'm with you. But yes. So if you have any questions, comments, or you want to chat further, my contact info's here. But yes, please do the PI. I'm happy to give you a read back. If you don't want to talk, you're introspective, I'll send you your report. There's no conversation needed. But I'm happy to help. I'm passionate about the industry. I'm passionate about succession. And I'm happy to continue conversations.
Great. Kellyanne, thank you so much. Really wonderful hearing your story and hearing your knowledge on this topic. And thanks everyone for joining. We have another video conference coming up that is going to be on March 25th with Marshall Buchanan from Ottawa Valley Farm to Fork, which does a whole bunch of amazing things, including doing beef, doing goat's milk, running a commercial forest, and doing CSI baskets. Marshall Buchanan is a lifelong forestry expert and conservationist who has been farming out in Scotch Bush, Ontario. That's near Eganville. It's near Pembroke. Uh, and he will be talking about how conservation and environmental practices can be a beneficial part to any farm operation. So that is on March 25th. If you want to hear more about it or learn more about it and get the link, it will be in the next issue of the Quebec Farmers Advocate. And you can find it on the Quebec Farmers Association Facebook pages. Kellyanne, thank you so much for being here. Wonderful presentation, and we'll look forward to writing to you and keeping in touch.
Thank you,
Thanks to all of
everybody.
you, and have a wonderful evening. Thanks so,
Thank
so much,
you.
everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Right.
Perfect.